KWT slaying.
Salama family, Salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. Minister tell you, say hi to fam.
Greetings, family. Salama, how y'all doing?
So today, family, we're going to talk about Gen Z. And, you know, normally Gen Z has to do with a certain age range. But today, Gen Z has to do with this awakening. It has to do with this liberation movement. And also, prophetically speaking, what we think is going to happen soon and globally. So everyone has their own idea of what's going to happen in the end time. Some people teaching, hey, this is the end, Christ is coming, all hell going to break loose, and then we go be with the Most High. No, that's not the case, right? What's going to happen is that Babylon is going to fall, but, you know, we all know about the second Exodus and all these type of things. And what most don't seem to realize and put the pieces together is that everything you're seeing happening is in line prophetically with Jeremiah 50:51, Revelation 17:18. But all of it is not going to happen all at the same time. That's the difference, right? Like, even when you look at Luke chapter 21, right? Luke chapter 21 has some things that Matthew 24 doesn't have, right? Luke chapter 21 has, you know, you're going to be led away captives, right? But Matthew 24 don't have that. So with Luke 21, you can tell that the prophetic timeline began in 70 AD, right? And continued. So now what we have is a major global change that's happening around the world. And a lot of people don't realize what's happening and how, let's say, dangerous it is, right? It's a dangerous time. Any comments before I continue, Minister Tate?
Not right now.
All right. So let's get started. We're going to talk about Gen Z. I'm going to do the full screen for y'all.
It's been more than a month since Kenyans took to the streets in protest at a new finance bill that proposed sweeping tax increases. The pressure has forced President William Ruto to withdraw the bill and dismiss his cabinet, but that has not appeased the protesters. In response to their defiance, police have since banned protests in Nairobi's city center, citing the need to ensure public safety.
George Mboya is just in time for the action. The 24-year-old has attended every anti-government protest in Nairobi for the last 5 weeks and is still going. For him, this is personal.
I was exposed to injustices at a very early age. I was used to see dead bodies way back from my childhood, and even now growing up to become a young adult in this country and witnessing the amount of excessive force being used by the law enforcement officers, it's appalling.
Kenya's Commission on Human Rights says at least 50 people have been killed since the protest started. Despite the risk attending the demonstrations poses, Mboya returns every week, undeterred and focused.
I know it's easy to be abducted or it's easy to go missing, so I'll just find my group of people. We mobilize ourselves and we'll continue being on the street up until the government listens to our voices.
Shortly after our interview, we're targeted by the police. We were not too far from here, about 50 meters, where somebody had been injured, and police, noticing that a crowd was forming, lobbed at least 4 canisters of tear gas at us. All around us, you can see young people who are curious, who might be wanting to participate in the protests, but unable to because of the sheer force that police are using. Now, young people have gathered here today to say to the government that despite the concessions President Ruto made, they still want more.
We need empowerment. We need change. Most of our graduates have gone to school, but they're not employed. We're asking the government, when our president was campaigning, say that we'll create job for the youths. But right now, you see right now, all people on the streets, they're youths, but they're not having work.
There's just been piling frustration for a long time. So we're here today, I guess, because this particular government has been the feather on the camel's back, and we're just tired of it.
We can't go on like this. For how long? For how long? So we need a solution to all this.
Boya and the protesters out today say they will keep the pressure on the state until their demands for change are met.
All right, so we have the Jacobins. I mean, not the Jacobins. We're going to talk about the Jacobins in relation to this, but what we're dealing with here is a prophetic scenario and a historical scenario that many people don't see, and the rise and fall of kingdoms is what's happening, and it is by the youth. Now, what we're seeing here, in my opinion, is prophetic, and this prophetic scenario here is culminating to the what we believe to be the second Exodus, and it's going to be led by the youth, but mainly by the Israelites, and we're going to see a global rise of this, right? A worldwide, let's say, liberty, right? I don't want to use certain words that may flag AI, but we're going to see a liberation movement that happens globally. And what I think many people are going to be surprised by is the involvement of the Negro, right? Of Black folks, of African Americans, of Africans, of the diaspora, whatever you want to call us. What do you think, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I mentioned many times to Minister Jacobin in the past that when the youth make their move, that's when things are going to start changing, and the continent's going to be prepared for us to come back. Didn't I tell you that, Minister Jacobin?
Oh yeah, he did. He really did. He said when they start moving, that's when things are gonna change, and it happened just like that. He really did say that.
So this is a work of the Most High, but here's the thing. I know this Gen Z doesn't really, and this is our people globally, don't fully understand. This is the final hour. Yeah. This is one of those situations where if they did not wake up, they were going to be totally under the authority of the global European powers. And then they could forget about ever having real jobs. That's the thing they don't, they're not looking to be rich. They're looking to have a job, have a nice opportunity to make some money, build a family, have a savings. They don't have those things, even though they see this wealth coming in and out of their country, and they don't get to partake of any of it. Right. So at least they're waking up now, because if they didn't, if you notice what Ruto was doing by taxing them on property and stuff, was putting the control of the land under the authority of the government. Right. Whereas in Africa, the land was under the people. The people, it was an ancestral legacy. But what he was doing was moving this thing under the power of the government, which I'm glad they saw that and woke up and preventing this. Now, this is a problem in every African country, and hopefully they, our youth and even our elderly wake up and put an end to this. And like I like to say, AES is the future for our people, right? As far as the structure that's going to resist European influence. If we don't cut off the European influence, we're finished people, right? Just like Claude Anderson said, it wasn't just for us in America, it's for us globally, right? This is a very important time.
So here's the thing. What we have to realize is that protests don't do anything, right? That is a way that they allow you to release the steam, right? But that doesn't bring change. right? True change, you know, you can imagine, which I can't really talk about. True change comes with sacrifice. And this is where we're at globally. And a lot of people have their own idea of the prophetic scenario, right? The end time scenario and how things are going to change and how our exodus is going to occur and how the Most High is going to come and get us, right? We only see through a glass darkly. We only see pieces of it. And we never think about our participation in it, right? And we assume that there's nothing required of us when in the Old Testament, our ancestors had to go in nation to nation and, you know, handle business, right? And so is the same today, right? And so I know a lot of people expect a Moses figure and somebody to come in and lead us out and march us out. And, you know, and I'm not saying supernatural things not going to happen. I do believe that, but I think we're going to participate in a lot of our own deliverance. And I think that things we don't recognize is because we don't understand fully the scriptures. As for instance, when I did my teaching on the parallel sufferings, and you can see that, you can see those parallels, right? But yet, you know, even when it comes to us being a light to the Gentiles, right? A lot of parallels there. Now, one of the parallels that I didn't add, which I don't know how I missed it, right? Which was the whippings, right? The cat o' nine tails, right? I mean, on a slave. So my point being is, you know, a lot of the things that the Most High may do, he may do through us as well, being a part of our own deliverance. It may work that way and it may not work that way, right? But we can't dismiss the fact that there are some scriptures that seem to point to that, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I do think that we are at the threshold, right, of whatever's going to happen. I think it's going to happen pretty soon. You know, it ain't going to be no more than 9 or 400-year prophecy after that, right? I think we're on a threshold of change. And even with President Biden stepping down, right, I think that is prophetic because that's going to change the structure of Babylon and, you know, the fall of Babylon. And I think it's going to turn things up, especially with, you know, the vice president now being, you know, having authority because, you know, Biden gave us some authority right now because he's not feeling well. And, you know, the whole thing of her being recommended to run for president by him. So, you know, the right wing not going to like that. We are in an opportune time for world liberty movements. And let me put it that way. You could think of other words, and we're going to talk about those other words a little later. Well, let's look at this right here.
Now, Kenyans living in the United States took to the streets of Washington, D.C. outside the International Monetary Fund headquarters, blaming them of economic interference while demanding an end to crippling loans. The tens of Kenyans lamented over the continued debt brought by the loans issued by the IMF to the country, and while chanting anti-IMF slogans, the demonstrators mourned the over 50 have been killed in the protest in the last 1 month. They also blamed President William Ruto for wastage of public funds in his government, contributed by unending benchmarking trips outside the country, trips they claim have had little benefit on Kenyans. They called for an end of neocolonialism, advocating for financial sovereignty and sustainable development.
What are we here to say? Not on our watch.
The U.S. government has given to Kenya's President William Ruto represents the racist contempt this settler state has for all Africa and for the domestic population of descendants from the continent.
Those who are left behind here, they've decided to give us orders. We are very, very angry, and we're telling the IMF that there is democracy in Kenya. The protesters have a right to go out in the streets and say no. The IMF has given Kenyan loans, has given Kenyan loans up to 22 loans since independence. So that's one every 3 years. And those are not loans to help our economic development. You can't be going 22 loans since independence and think if you come out of economic trouble.
So a lot of this stuff is going to start happening on a global basis.
Minister Jacobin, you there? I can't hear you.
All right, hold on one sec, fam. Hold on. I think it wasn't playing. Hold on one sec. Minister Teyu, was it not playing?
You were silent for that period. There was nothing.
All right, let me try again. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna try to share it again and see what happens. All right, and Minister Teyu, speak louder next time. I couldn't hear you through the thing, so because I don't, you know. All right, let's try this again.
At the ECOWAS Parliament, tensions erupted into a physical altercation when a heated debate spiraled out of control. The catalyst? An ECOWAS leader from the Ivory Coast who rose to contest accusations leveled against leaders accused of impoverishing West African countries. What began as a fiery exchange of words quickly escalated, resulting in an all-out brawl that left the assembly in disarray. Here's the video and how it all unfolded. The presentation was given by someone who provided important and interesting elements that I find reliable. The figures might be excellent, but the political vision is catastrophic. If I respect the figures, I cannot respect the vision of UNDP. Let me explain why. The title of the document presented is The State of Poverty and Inequality in West Africa. In reality, the title should be The State of Impoverishment and Inequality in West Africa. As long as they continue to say poverty, they are not supporting the exit from underdevelopment. We are among the richest countries on the planet. Saying West Africa is poor means these people are part of the problem. It is impoverishment. But why don't they dare say impoverishment? Because those who have impoverished Africa are our presidents.
We need to control our language. We need to control our language. The term is impoverishment, not poverty.
In an effort to maintain order, officials abruptly cut off the Senegalese speaker's microphone, sparking outrage and further chaos among the members. As the argument.
All right, so in Senegal and the Ivory Coast, you know, they got issues with tensions between them and the joining of ECOWAS, and people are having issues with us being a part of ECOWAS. So there's another video I want to share, and I think last time when we went silent, I clicked the wrong button because I don't have my dual screens, right? So, you know, if anything go wrong this time, let me know. But let me show this other video before I get Minister Teyu to comment. Everything okay, Minister Teyu, so far?
Yeah, it's good.
All right.
This guy called Olusegun Obasanjo, who is here in our country, whose interest is he representing? There is going to be a government of national unity. Unity for who and in whose interest? After all, Raila Amolo Odinga and William Samoei Ruto are part of the problem in this country, in a sense that they are negotiating to eat on top of the dead bodies of our comrades that have been martyred by the state. So we hope that they will announce that government of national unity as they think. That will help us to mobilize.
Telling President Ruto and his rotten system that we want all the demands that we are asking him to do, because by calling the opposition to come and share power, that is not what people have been demanding for. We are demanding good governance. We are demanding good quality education and free. We are demanding good health care. We are demanding equal distribution of the country. The solution is justice. And when we get justice, we'll have lasting peace.
So you should know that Kenya is not independent. As much as you want to believe that you are independent, you are still a colony of the West. And these people are mining our minerals. Kuna Magadi Soda area. 220, enda Google who owns Magadi area. It is being owned by the royal family of Britain. 220 to 24,000 acres is a land bigger than Nairobi. These people are mining, wanatoa minerals huko tangu the so-called independence hawajawahi enda. Hiyo number one.
So Africa's starting to wake up to the idea that they're still colonized, and the youth are the ones that's pushing back. I want to show two more videos before I get Minister to your comment, because I think a lot of what's happening is relevant, and Gen Z is the head of this change, right? And it's going to spread globally.
Hey, Kenya, this is David Allen Greer, and I want to say Angu Kanayo.
Yes!
Be strong, baby.
What's going on here?
Kenya, we love you.
We love you.
Angu Kanayo. Angu Kanayo. Love you.
Do you really?
We love you, Kenya.
Angu Kanayo.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Kenya, we love you. Angu Kanayo. Yes. Kenya, we love you. Angu Kanayo.
Everyone's saying it. Sounds pretty good.
Kenya, we love you. Angu Kanayo. Angu Kanayo.
Puppets themselves are starting to move at the sound of Gen Z.
We say we love you, Kenya, and Angu Kanayo. Angu Kanayo.
Angu Kanayo.
These were all Western puppets, but now Kenyan and African revolutionaries seem to have taken control of the regime. Well done, Africa. This is a game changer.
Hello, Kenya. My heart is with you.
Do you hear this?
Kids, your generation is going to save us from ourselves.
The Western media.
Because us oldies, we have become apathetic and we've lost our drive. But you guys in this generation, you're going to be the ones to keep the planet spinning. Anguka Nayo.
The colonialist regime's puppets changing their ways, or at least taking sides with the African revolutionaries and Gen Z.
All of it. Sending you big love from Los Angeles. And God, I wish I could say something more profound than that. But you're going to save us. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. That's actually the message right now. So God bless you for that.
Thank you.
If you have won the media to this extreme, this is a new day for Africa and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to need a drink for this one.
The call for Ruto to go is a clarion call that calls upon the leadership of this nation to really listen to what the young people are saying, not hearing, intentionally listening to what they're saying. They're saying, hey,
at least 50 protesters have been killed. The Law Society of Kenya says it is seeking justice in the courts for victims of alleged police brutality and is urging President Ruto to initiate reforms.
I feel like we're in a constitutional moment. And I think the president should not take it negatively because he's not solely the reason for why we're in this constitutional moment. The question of corruption over years, the question of lack of adequate healthcare, proper education systems, these are things that have built over time that people are clamoring and saying enough is enough. Let us hold public officers accountable.
This is the reason behind it all. Let us hold public officials accountable, as we see Burkina Faso, once condemned as a violent coup, now being praised as a righteous rebellion, as we're seeing Uganda stripped of all aid from the IMF and the World Bank because they chose to hold fast to their culture of family
I think you
values.
clicked off the screen, Minister
As we
Jacobin.
see Nigerian citizens following the march of the revolution of the Gen Z and seeking Tinubu to step down. And this is not a trend. This is the future. It has traveled all the way over into Bangladesh as the people there are taking
It's there and we good.
to the same goal. Hold the government officials accountable. And there's nothing red carpet, champagne, and caviar wishes about it. They've lost over 50 lives as well.
Battles. Students protesting across Bangladesh, angry at the reinstatement of a quota system for government jobs. The government has shut all public and private universities and sent security forces onto campuses. It says it's willing to meet student leaders. Demonstrators say they want accountability for the killings before they discuss a possible compromise with the government.
So yeah, I was looking for that video. There was another video I had about Bangladesh and their whole protest movement. Same thing happening in Bangladesh that's happening in Kenya. The youth are rising up. They're rebelling against their government. And, you know, some of the people have been killed. And so a lot of people can't see the connections here globally. And personally, I think the biggest question is this stuff organic or not? Right? Is it organic protests, or is this part of a dialectic by the New World Order to implement a new system? And what's your thoughts, Minister Tate?
Well, I've been waiting for this really, but I guess for me, the issue is sometimes seeing and understanding how this system works can really, really frustrate you, right? And it makes you sad, makes you angry, makes you fearful. But I'm happy that our youth are waking up and understanding that if they want change for themselves, they got to take it. They got to take it, right? You can't, your leadership, right? And that goes for us too. They want the status quo, right? Because they're already sitting in the catbird seat, but the average citizen, they're not benefiting. I was watching this video about the Netherlands, right? And I'm like, okay, everything is pristine, everything real neat, but they don't really have anything, that can keep that country going if they weren't hooked up with the cabal, right? With those who exploit Africa, right? They wouldn't have a lot, but it's sort of like with France, right? France doesn't have anything. Netherlands doesn't have anything without Africa. And that's what we're seeing, and our people are the ones that are suffering for it globally, right? And especially in Africa. Our people in Africa can get an education and then find themselves with no job. They can get a master's and PhD and still have no job, right? And I'm glad they're waking up. One thing I noticed, what came to my mind was how with Afghanistan, how we used to give Afghanistan these Stinger missiles to fight Russia. And then when Russia left, we went in and started taking over and fighting them, and then held down their country for 20 years. And somehow they were able to keep the narrative going that somehow they were doing something righteous, and that Afghanistan was bad because they were fighting to keep their own control of their own land. These are the things that we will have to be concerned about, because they will spin the narrative as the youth try to control their own destiny. But it's important for all of us. I mean, if you're of African descent, what's happening on the continent is important for you as well. Either that or you're happy being on the bottom. Some of our people are happy being on the bottom, getting crumbs off the master's table. I'm sorry, but I'm not. But some of them are.
Yeah, so once again, regardless of whether or not this movement is organic or not, which I'm not completely sure, I do believe is prophetic, and I do believe the Most High is in control, and he will use the plans of the enemy to fulfill his will as well. And so we have a lot of world-changing events that's happening, and a lot of people not ready for what's coming in it. And I think it's also something that we need to take note of when it comes to America as well, but not just America, right? But it's also, of course, it's on the continent. And I think the continent is where things will start off first.
Let me say something right quick. So,
Yeah.
I was just going to reply. Somebody said, well, the Netherlands has oil, and that's how they keep their economy going. Africa has gold, uranium, oil, diamonds, right? We have all kinds of stuff. The problem is we don't control the system that allows for commerce and trade. So we can have all the natural, we can have all the natural minerals and materials and oil and all that. We can have all of that, just like Zimbabwe has a ton of gold, but they're struggling economically because they're not allowed to trade on the current SWIFT system that's controlled by the Europeans in America, right? So you can have all of this wealth and you still poor because you're not allowed to trade with the globe through the current SWIFT system. So that's where BRICS comes in, right? Because BRICS allows for a new method of trading and benefiting and setting international prices on your products. Whereas, so like, Niger has oil, Niger has uranium, but the problem is that the question is whether or not the European powers will allow them to trade on the SWIFT system and exchange those goods for a fair value. Right now, they want to shut you down like they did Zimbabwe. You can have all the material you want, all the natural material, minerals and stuff you want. You're going to be poor because you can't trade it on the system. So that's where BRICS comes in as well. So these things are coming along at the same time to give the so-called global South, which is everybody other than the Europeans, give the global South an opportunity to be a first world nation. That's what we potentially seeing here is the rise of the global South, including our people, right? Those of African descent, but also you'll have the Indians from India. You'll have a lot of these other so-called third-rate nations, even Mexico. They're going to prosper, right? As long as we keep pushing for change, as long as the youth stands up and say no more, they'll get what they want, right? Just like in the AES as well today, Ibrahim Traore said no more. We're not playing your game. We don't want your stuff. Take your stuff and get out of here. We'll do it ourselves, and we'll fight whoever trying to take it from us, right? Because he's already ranked as the 6th fastest growing nation in Africa just by a coup. That tells you how much power France had and how much money France was taking from Africa, that once you kick France out, all of a sudden you're the 6th fastest growing African country. What? Come on now. You ain't even beginning to trade your goods and you're already 6th. You see what I'm saying? This is the game they're running on us. And look, you in America and Europe, you're not exempt from this. You being played too. It's just different. But you on the bottom, you're nothing but a worker bee unless you support your brothers who are trying to take control of their own destiny.
So here's the thing: the African Union, ECOWAS, those institutions need to be done away with, right? And the African continent need to support the Sahel Alliance. Anything that's separate from the democratic system of the West, because the democratic system of the West is controlled by the West, right? And that's why you have a lot of puppets on the continent. And so I think prophetically speaking, this is going to go worldwide. And we can see that here as well in Nigeria.
Gathered here are members of organized labor unions, religious leaders, civil society organizations, student unions, and youth groups in Zamfara State. They are here on the invitation of the Zamfara State Commissioner of Police, over the planned nationwide protest against the federal government on the 1st of August this year. The Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Alijan, warned that bandits, Boko Haram insurgents, among other criminal groups that have been terrorizing the state, could join in the protest, which would do the country more harm than good.
If there is instability, you are likely to be affected by it more than any other person too. Most of the people that are calling for these protests are criminals, bandits, illegal miners, armed robbers, and unemployed youths who want to seize the opportunity to break people's shops and carry their property. So, in essence, if we join this strike in Zamfara state, we are worsening the situation.
However, the position of the police on the protest did not go down well with organized labor and other stakeholders at the meeting.
For you to categorize all these people that are calling for protest as bandit, as criminal, it is not so, because I have seen them, I know some of them. Because they were in labor, we tell them to not issue that affiliation with labor.
Representatives of students and youth groups at the meeting are concerned that Nigerian students across various institutions have been neglected.
If the federal government or likewise the state government, they are saying that they are not increasing school fees. But why the institutions are increasing the school fees without even intervention of the government? Even when we are talking about the increment of the school fees, is more than 17%.
Majority of our students, they depend on themselves, because some they used to use the weekenders to go. Someone is a shoemaker, someone is tailor, and he will go back to town and do something to get money to take his own responsibility. But now, even during the weekends, they may go back to town, but they never get job because people are suffering to get something to eat, not to buy new shoes, not to wear new clothes.
At the end of the meeting, although there wasn't a consensus, the police commissioner urged Zamfara residents to shun the planned protest for the sake of peace and safety.
All right, so they have this planned protest for August 1st in Nigeria, and the Nigerian government is trying to stop it. And the students are like, nah, we're going to continue with it. We're going to have it. So Kenya is the spark, right, that's going to light all of Africa, and all of the raccoons are going to be pushed out of power. That's my opinion. But I think more than just the continent of Africa is that it is going to spread globally, that this isn't going to stop with Africa. It's going to continue, and not only with the Negro, with the true Hebrew Israelites, it's also going to continue with some of the Gentiles as well, like what was happening in France. And speaking of France, let me show you the parallels of what's happening, which is why I have a question of why some of this may be organic and some may not. And even if it's not organic, it's still going to end up removing some of the chains off of Africa, right? I'm not sure if it's organic or not, this global movement, because I think it could be a move towards the change that they require for a world government. Because remember, in the scriptures, the 10-toe kingdom is going to be partly strong and partly weak, right? And so I believe on the continent of Africa, they won't have as much control, because the Bible says, in the days of these 10 shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom that shall never end. So let's look at this right quick. So, and Minister, tell me if you can see this or if I need to make it bigger. It should be coming up in a second.
Yeah, it looks fine. I'm looking at it on my other monitor. Yeah, it looks okay.
All right. So, causes of the French Revolution. Social inequality. The French society was divided into three estates. First estate, clergy, who were privileged and exempt from any taxes. Sound familiar? Second estate, nobility, who also enjoyed privileges and tax exemption. Sound familiar? Third estate, commoners, including peasants, that's all of us, the working class, right? Urban workers and the bourgeoisie, who bore the brunt of taxation and had little political power. Sound like us, right? Economic troubles. France was in financial crisis due to massive debt from participation in the 7 Years' War and the American Revolution. Massive debt. Sound familiar? Poor harvest in the late 1780s, leading to food shortages and high bread prices. Sound familiar? Excessive taxation on the third estate. Sound familiar? Enlightenment ideas. Philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu promoted ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity, challenging the traditional monarchy and advocating for democratic principles, right? Then also we have more, which is the key phases of the revolution, right? So one was convocation of the Estates General. King Louis summoned the Estates General to address the financial crisis. The third estate, frustrated with the voting system favoring the first and second estates, declared itself the National Assembly, signaling the start of the revolution. Storming of the Bastille. Parisians stormed the Bastille prison, a symbol of royal tyranny, marking a significant uprising. Now, I think all of this is interesting because if we're, nothing new under the sun, if what was, what shall be, right? We know that some kind of way the brothers who are in prison are going to be released. Now, how does that happen? Could it be this massive worldwide revolution? I don't know, right? The Great Fear and abolition of feudalism. Widespread panic and peasant revolts led to the abolition of feudal privileges by the National Assembly. So isn't this the same thing the Kenyans are complaining about, the Bangladeshis are complaining about, the people in America is complaining about, all on a global stage, right? All right, so Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. This document proclaimed equal rights for all men and the sovereignty of the people. Can you not see this happening on a global world governmental system with a world order, world United Nations? Think about this for a second. The ICJ just passed, a decision where they decided that Israel is wrong with their occupation of Palestine, right? And that Netanyahu and them got to reimburse them. I'm just saying, this sort of managed. All right, so constitutional monarchy and radicalization. Initially, the constitutional monarchy, radical factions like the Jacobins gained influence, pushing for more extreme changes. Now, the question is, who are the Jacobins? So the Jacobins were a political group during the French Revolution named after the convent of St. Jacob in Paris, where they initially met, officially known as the Society of the Friends of the Constitution. They later became the Society of the Jacobins, Friends of Freedom and Equality. They were known for their radical republicanism and their influence during the Reign of Terror. Now, remember, today we have a similar thing going on. We have a Republican power structure that's coming into place, right? All during this time, people are upset because of the high cost of food, right? The immoral things and all of that. So some of the key points of the Jacobins. Now, the Jacobins, you can think of them more so as Freemasons, right? So formation of an ideology. The Jacobins were formed in 1789 and were initially moderate, but they became increasingly radical. They advocated for democratic principles, universal male sufferings, and the abolition of the monarchy. Leadership. Notable leaders included Maximilien Robespierre, George Danton, and Jean-Paul Marat. Robespierre, in particular, became synonymous with the Jacobin dictatorship during the Reign of Terror. So I'm of the opinion what we're going to see is an increase in revolutions, right? Or liberty movements, whatever you want to call it. And so under the leadership of Robespierre and the Committee of the Public Safety, thousands were executed, including King Louis and Queen Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake, right? The goal was to eliminate counter-revolutionaries and protect the revolution from internal and external enemies. Robespierre was overthrown and executed. I'm of the opinion you're going to see something similar, maybe not exactly that, right? Maybe it's going to be involvement of the Hague, right? And people are going to be getting sentenced to such things, all right? Especially after what happened with the lollipop. All right, the directory, the more conservative government replaced the radical phase, but was marked by corruption and inefficiency. Into the revolution, coup of 18 Brumaire. General Napoleon Bonaparte staged a coup d'etat, overthrowing the directory. He established the consulate with himself as the first consul, effectively ending the French Revolution. Now, if we have a similar situation happen on a global stage, wouldn't it be interesting that the Antichrist will come to power that way, right? Because the Bible says the 10 are going to give their power to the beast, right? So it probably comes after this world war, this world revolutionary movement, which I think is happening right before our eyes. Napoleon's rise to power marked the transition from the revolutionary period to the Napoleonic era, during which he would eventually declare himself Emperor of the French in 1804. Now, can you see the rise of Christ, right, coming in a similar way, right, with the revolutions kicking off in all nations, all globe, right? People seeing what's happening over there in Palestine, and the United Nations stepping up to be the leader of the world, and people giving their power over to the beast. I'm just saying, I'm telling you, it all makes sense to me. All right. So outcomes: abolition of monarchy and feudal privileges. The revolution abolished the absolute monarchy and the feudal system. Rise of Republican ideals. They promoted republicanism, individual rights, and secular governance. Sounds familiar. Spread of revolutionary ideas. The principles of the revolution influenced other countries and contributed to subsequent revolutions globally. The Napoleonic Code. Napoleon's legal reforms institutionalized many revolutionary principles, influencing legal systems worldwide. The French Revolution reshaped France and had a lasting impact on the world, setting the stage for modern democracy and social change. So this is why they call for democracy everywhere, right? Because it all came from the French Revolution. Now we're having global revolutions, and we're having revolutions in Africa, Bangladesh, all over the planet, right? It seems some of this is managed. Now, I do believe that in the end, right, we will get our freedoms, right? Because that's what the Bible says. Any comments, Mr. Tate?
Well, I just like to add concerning democracy. Most of the African leadership have a fake form of democracy, right? And they re-elect themselves. So clearly, they control the election. Most of these African leaders have a form of rendition where they disappear their people off the street, but then they say they're democratic. There's a secret behavior that's going on behind the scenes that's really dictatorial. But the so-called United Nations don't say anything about that because they benefit.
So when we see what's happening on the continent of Africa, I think it's all part of a world movement. And I think we're at the crescendo of that. Now, what I believe is going to happen next is just Jacobin's opinion. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. You don't have to agree with me, right? Is that there's going to be this total shutdown of the world, right? And it's going to be total rebellion because, first of all, in the United States, we have similar situation that we saw in the French Revolution, right? With the food, the high taxes, the high cost of living, and the Republicans coming into power. We see this scenario where Biden is now not going to run because of the pressure coming on him. And then the so-called issue that happened, to Donald Trump a week ago, where the Republicans are now being galvanized. Now, we know that the Republicans are the ones who are pushing, for all of these laws against Negroes, right? What they call CRT, anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion. They all against the affirmative action. They already took that down. All of the policies that's being passed in Florida and Mississippi and Texas, which is anti-Negro. The same thing, even with the Democrats bringing in the migrants to replace the Negroes in Chicago and to push them out of their own neighborhoods. Also, when you look at what's happening throughout the United States with the changes in the laws in terms of how they deal with employee and employer relationships. Also, when we look at the laws passed on it being illegal to be homeless, everything is being set up, right, for a world revolution or liberty movement or whatever you want to call it. It is happening. And so Nothing has changed though, right? Nothing has changed for the Negro. And if you listen to this, you'll see that there's nothing new under the sun. Everything is happening as it always has. But I think this is the time of our deliverance. I really do believe this portends our exit. Now, will it be this year? I don't know. Next year? I don't know. I think it's close, whatever that means, right? So let's listen to this right quick.
That make Omaha different from New York are just incidental. The problem exists because white people think they're better than black people, and they want to oppress us, and they want us to allow ourselves to be oppressed.
This is the I agree with you perfectly. This is the basic problem.
Then what do you
that white people think they're better than others?
I can't solve the problem. You guys pull the strings that close schools. You guys draw the boundaries that keep our kids restricted to the ghetto. You guys write up the restrictive covenants that keep us out of houses. So it's up to you to talk to your brothers and your sisters and persuade them that they have a responsibility. We've assumed ours for over 400 years, and we're tired of this kind of stuff now. We're not going to suffer patiently anymore. No more turning the other cheek. No more blessing our enemies. No more praying for those who despitefully use us. We're going to show you that we've learned the lessons you've taught us. We've studied your history, and you did not take over this country by singing "We Shall Overcome." You did not gain control of the world like you have it now by dealing fairly with a man and keeping your word. You're treaty breakers, you're liars, you're thieves, you rape entire continents and races of people. Then you wonder why these very people don't have any confidence or trust in you. Your religion means nothing. Your law is a farce, and we see it every day. You demonstrated it in Alabama. And I can say you because you're part of the whole system. You profit from it. In fact, you make your living from it. You couldn't walk around and talk to people, stand up in your pulpit on Sunday and preach nice little songs and say, now we're going to give thanks to the Lord for he is good and old Jesus be among us. As far as we're concerned, your Jesus is contaminated, just like everything else you tried to force upon us is contaminated. Well, so you can have him. And here's what I'll say. I wish you would follow Jesus like we followed him. Because if you did that, then we'd be in charge tomorrow. I think the problem is so bad that we can have no understanding at all.
You think it's gotten to the point where there can never be that reconciliation? Then?
No. You talk about justice, and it means one thing to you, and we talk about it and means something else to us. And it'll always be that way. And I'd like you to know I have a terrible feeling against preachers because I think you guys are the ones who are largely responsible for the problem in the first place. And you can accept it or not any way you choose. And for you, this may be an excursion, you know, across the line.
What about the person that wants to listen? I genuinely feel that I want to listen.
Well, if you listen and try to do something, you get kicked out of your church. See, that's...
So I think he couldn't have said it any better. And, you know, back then, a lot of us was caught up in a Eurocentric Christianity, whether you were in Catholicism, Protestantism, you know, whatever form, Kojic or whatever. And now we realize that, you know, they really was teaching a different Jesus, right? They were teaching a white Jesus, which was a colonialist Jesus, not the Yeshua of the Bible. And the biggest thing that they have that hinders them is the internet, right? Because now we can share information, we can, you know, research and pull out our sources together and say, hey, look, this is what's really going on. Look, they didn't hijack Christianity, right? They didn't painted Jesus white, and they then manipulated the scriptures or misinterpreted the scriptures to say turn the other cheek when they took it out of context because it ties to the Old Testament dealing with your brother, right? And who's your brother, right? That's the whole question, right? He who does the will of the Father is your brother or bloodline, right? So now there's a different dynamic because now we have the tools to do our own research. We have the tools to look at the original Greek, the original Hebrew, and see what's really going on. And guess what? We determined that you lied, right? We determined that you continue to lie, and we're still slaves, right? We understand this now. We understand that the system has changed, but we're still slaves. We don't have physical chains on our necks and on our ankles and wrists, but you have electronic chains and you have a debt system that you have us in that makes it difficult for the majority of us to rise, right? So now we see that, you know, things have changed a lot. Now, to me, if, you know, I think this video was in 1966. And you know, back then, most of us wasn't even born, right? And so we understand, though, a lot of the people like him and you know, Malcolm X and Farrakhan and others, they knew something, right? They knew what was happening, and we didn't really have an understanding. And today, I think most of us are waking up. And I wish I could find a video where Malcolm X said that one day we would wake up. And when we do wake up, things are going to change. And I believe this is the time. I believe we're about to wake up en masse globally, and things are going to change. And guess what? The little timid Negro, the little turn the other cheek Negro, the brainwashed Negro, right? The slave Bible Negro, they gone. Most of them gone. You got a few raccoons out there, but this is a different time. What's your thoughts, Minister Tate?
I just like to add, you know, how did they get us, right? How did they get us with Christianity? Because they kept us out of the Old Testament. They told us stay only in the New Testament. And then when you stayed in the New Testament, they'd take a lesson, one verse, and make a whole doctrine out of one verse. And we fell for it because it sounded good. It made us feel good. But when we went to the Old Testament, we start saying, that God don't look like this God, right? And then we couldn't see we were able to sort of balance it out. Well, yeah, God is love. He does love us, but he's just, and he's going to punish those who go against his people. He's going to punish those who commit murder and sin and break his laws, right? But in Christianity, his laws were done away with, right? So we didn't bother looking at them, even though we sort of knew them. And we all claim we read the Bible from cover to cover, but that's not true. And those who did read it with blinders on, right? So they got us. They got us because we were stuck in one book and couldn't balance it out. Now, yeah, the Messiah's teaching is legit. It's 100%. We love the Messiah, right? He did die for our sins, but we didn't understand the story because it's an Israelite book. And if you don't read the Old and New Testament from an Israelite perspective, knowing that it was written to them, you got a new doctrine. That's what they did. They gave us a new doctrine because they told us it was a global book, when in reality, to get it in proper context, you got to understand the audience, and the audience was the Israelites.
So, Minister, tell you,
yeah,
see if you can grab that link and send it in a private chat for me from Pastor Rick. I want to. I think that's the one I was talking about with the Malcolm X one. I'm gonna play something right now by Farrakhan, and
you said the link is in the comments.
Yeah. Pastor Rick just shared it. Yeah,
right.
I think that's the one I wanted to find.
Stand up. Look at the crowd tonight. They were doing everything to keep you from me, keep you from the forum, and you came out regardless to what they said because you want to hear for yourself. The power is with me today. The God of heaven and earth is with me in what I'm doing, and if all of you join against me, I will yet prevail, because the scripture tells you, if God be for you, who can be against you? Oh, that arrogant man. He says the power is with him. Then attack me and see what happens. You'll see. Just attack me and see what happens. You're a loser today. All of you that side with falsehood and side with the oppressor against the oppressed, you are losers today. If you are in the present and you are supposed to be free, but you are acting out of your slave past, then you will not be successful. The problem today with black leaders and black people is that we are living in the present, but our actions belong to the slave era. Therefore, we are not communicating properly to ourselves or to others. Any man that will serve you, brothers and sisters, must bring your actions up to time. You are not a slave people. Therefore, you should take responsibility as a free people and start acting like free men and women, thinking like free men and women, walking like free men and women, planning like free men and women, and absolutely negotiating with others like you are free men and women. But if you go to others with your hat in your hand, scratching where you don't itch, bending and bowing, scraping and shuffling, and want to be respected, you cannot get that respect. You are out of time.
Farrakhan's religious views also caused unease.
Now, beloved, I have a problem with Jewish people. And it is not because I'm hateful of Jewish people, not at all. But I have a problem because I am declaring to the world that they are not the chosen people of God. Listen. I am declaring to the world that you, the black people of America and the Western Hemisphere, are the lost, the rejected, the despised, the prodigal son, the lost sheep, the God's people. You are the people of God.
One thing I noticed, especially for me growing up, I was in a matrix. I was, part of the illusion or part of the delusion. And I wouldn't listen to people like Malcolm X or Farrakhan back in the day because they had a different belief system, right? They were Muslims. And but now that you realize that all religions, right? All religions are corrupt, whether it's Christianity, Islam, the religion of the people in the Middle East, they're all corrupt, right? But the difficulty lied in the fact that the word of God was true. See, your heart rung when you heard the word from the Most High, right? When you heard the words from Yeshua, you knew it was true, right? It rang with you. That's the words from the Most High. And they said, surely this is the Son of God, right? Nobody can speak like this, right? How does he speak like this, right? Nobody ever spoke like this. So the word from the scriptures rung true. And so we took sides because we were Christian or we were Catholic or we were whatever, right? Kojic or whatever you want to call it. And now we understand that all religions are false, but the word is true. And then you got people, just as you heard with Farrakhan say what he said, and he said back then we are the chosen people, but how many of us had ears to hear? We couldn't listen. We couldn't hear. We had no evidence. It was him saying so. Right. We had Malcolm X telling us truth. We had Muhammad Ali telling a whole bunch of truth, but we didn't have ears to hear. I know I didn't. I was young back then. So, but anyway, I
just want to add, we know Farrakhan is Boule and Freemasonic, but
yeah,
that doesn't mean that he doesn't have truth when he teaches a lot of times.
So I think a lot of times we throw the baby out with the bathwater. And we decide a matter before even hearing it. And so that's where I'm trying to make the change, right? Is, okay, I may not agree with him because, he is a Freemason, right? And he is a, what's that? Wait, hold on. What happened?
We could hear you.
What's wrong? Okay. Yeah, you were saying something?
No, I was muted, but yeah, I didn't say anything.
Okay, so that link doesn't look like it was look like you sent me the link to this video and not to the Malcolm X thing.
Oh, I thought I grabbed it. Sister E said it's in the chat in Facebook if you want to grab it there.
It's hard for me to navigate because I got one monitor. So
okay, let me try again.
Okay, I'll just move on to my next video, and hopefully we could look.
Okay.
So there's a revolution that's happening in Africa, in Bangladesh, around the world, and I think it's going to spread. But here's the thing: I think we don't realize that a revolution is happening here as well. It's just that a bunch of Negroes here in the States don't realize it, right? A bunch of Negroes in the States, you know, they're comfortable in Babylon. They're comfortable because they sit at the top with some of the elite. But things are changing, right? And the problems that we have spoken of here in other channels, and you know, even people who are not Israelites have spoken about the racism, the discrimination, and then you know, and I, you know, like I say, I don't really care anymore because I'm tired of it. But you know, our people so gone. I'm like I say, you know, 98% or higher. I mean, literally, of the young black guys are marrying Caucasian women. And I'm like, okay, that's your business, not mine. But if you look at the days of Malcolm X and the days of Farrakhan, you know, my daddy days and stuff, you know, there was black consciousness, right? There was black community that don't exist anymore. But there's a change, right? And what's happening, you either gonna be swept up by the change or you're gonna be swept in with them folks under their judgment.
It's a guy who's was doing landscaping right near the area, and we don't see the incident itself, but we see the guy who obviously saw the incident on video going, he had his hands up. Right. I think his actual quote was, he had his fucking hands up.
Be from
and it
Price.
Mirrors every other account we have of this. And it just shows that, you know, this guy, this Michael Brown guy was just gunned down in the street when he was surrendering. And again, I don't think we need new laws. I don't think we need reparations. I just think white America needs to stop putting forth this toxic idea that racism is over.
And the fact is, while we have this very comfortable colloquial debate about it, when the lights go out and I go out in the street and I get behind the wheel of my car, the most dangerous moment I ever have in my life is when a police officer pulls me over. Every black man in America knows that when that happens, there's actually a possibility his life may come to an end. And that shouldn't happen. It actually happened to me in Louisiana, dressed as I am, going to my uncle's funeral, 2 toddlers in the back. I just picked up my cousin from Chicago, 100 degrees on the road in Louisiana. I'm pulled over and I sat there waiting for the cop to come. I have a habit of always taking my wallet out and putting it on the dash to make sure he doesn't think this is going for a gun. I sat there and sat there and sat there, and I realized he hadn't come. Air condition on, 100 degrees, and I look in the mirror and I see. That's all I heard. As I turned down the window, you hear, motherfucker, get out that car, I'm gonna blow your fucking head off. Now, he didn't have the training to say, I'm gonna come up to the car. I had to tell these toddlers, be cool, everything's fine. Uncle Wendell's gonna get out the car. Everyone, don't move. I put my hands up, get the car, open the door from the outside. But I told the officer, why didn't you use your PA? Simple, get in your car. Well, why didn't you respond? I said, I had the windows up, it's 100 degrees and the air conditioner is on. I can't hear you. That's poor training that he didn't know that I wasn't gonna be able to hear him in the car. He's gonna fire. So it's that sort of incident that happens too often all the time that white America has to understand that Wendell Allen in New Orleans, Mr. Garner in Staten Island, Michael Brown in Ohio is a constant all over this country. And if we're gonna sit here and pretend that we are post-racial, you have to realize that I can't afford for your belief or denial that my life isn't in danger.
Okay.
All right, so here's the thing. There is no change coming without sacrifice. This is something I learned, right? This whole protesting nonviolent stuff, right? That's what they teach, right? But if you look at change don't come that way, right? Because wicked people do wickedly and wicked people don't give up power. Understand this, Africa is not going to be set free by protesting. You see what I'm saying? Africa not going to be free by nonviolent means. I'm not telling them to do anything. No, I'm not telling them to do anything. That ain't my place. I'm saying historically, right? Change requires sacrifice. That's all I'm saying. Change requires sacrifice. And you got to understand that these Gentiles, right, these colonizers, they want your gold, they want your silver, they want your bauxite, they want your land, they want your water, they want you. They're not going to let Africa go for anything. And it's the same thing here. They don't want to give us an ounce, right? They don't want to give us any means as a nation to succeed and have predetermination for our lives. They're not going to let you go. What did the Bible say? They wouldn't let you go. Isn't that what the Bible said? That God is going to come and free you from a nation that's stronger than you are. See, this Christianity has made you think it doesn't require sacrifice. Everything requires sacrifice. Yeshua said, you're going to rule and reign with me, you got to suffer with me. This is the reality of this world. Some people going to have to sacrifice. Some people have sacrificed. And that's what we're dealing with here is a need for change, but you got to bring the change. You got to cause the change. You got to be a part of the change. But the psychological on our people, and the example I'm giving is our young men marrying them folk. But they're not like us. I don't care what you say. They're not like us. We different. And I'm going to tell you, you know, like I say, it's sort of like what Pastor Darby said. And I'll listen to Pastor Darby's son, you know, very good video. If y'all haven't watched it, I shared it in Facebook. And, you know, like Pastor Darby used to say, they might call me racist. And Pastor Darby said, well, maybe I am. See, some people call me racist, and I'll say, okay, well, maybe I am, whatever that means. But I don't hate nobody, right? You can live your life, I'll live my life. I'm not trying to control you. I'm not trying to stop you from being successful. I'm not trying to stop you from being rich. I'm not trying to stop you from living anywhere. I'm not trying to stop you from self-determination. I'm not trying to stop you for anything. You know what I am? I'm pro-Black. I'm pro-Negro. I'm pro-African-American. I'm pro-Hebrew Israelite. I'm pro-African Hebrew Israelite. See, when I'm pro my people, then I'm a problem. See, this whole melting pot situation is not biblical. Because guess what? Ain't nobody going to fight for you but you. See, that's the thing. Your family going to fight for you. But guess what? If your family no longer your family, they ain't going to fight for you. Understand this. And, you know, I know y'all don't like to hear this and y'all be tired of me talking about it. But interracial relationships dilute the unity of the Black race. It dilutes the unity of the African American. It dilutes the unity of the Hebrew Israelites. Because guess what? You're going to have to compromise to satisfy your white wife. You're going to have to compromise.
It's sort of like I said, just to add, I mentioned this to a guy. I said, well, if you pick that person, that other group to marry, you opted out of the struggle. You're not part of the struggle. I can't count on you to be part of the struggle. Whether I know you might not be against me, your heart might be in the right place, but you've opted out of the struggle, right? I can't look at you to be in this fight.
And look, think of this too, especially the relationship between a Black man and a white woman. It's almost 100% divorce rate. You see what I'm saying? Because in their mind, because they grew up in a white supremacist system, right? They're still over you. Like they don't mind hooking up with you. They don't mind having fun with you, right? But when it comes to your dreams and your visions and the hope for your family, guess what? They're not there with you because they're not you. They're not you, and they ain't gonna never be you. Even though they part of your family, they'll never be you. They ain't gonna never have the same hopes and drives for the deliverance and freedom of the Black race, or as we know now, the Hebrew Israelites. Ain't nobody fighting for you, as I said, but the Most High and us, those who are conscious, woke Hebrew Israelites. The rest of them are asleep and they are enemies, right? The rest of them sleep and they're enemies. Why? Because they support the matrix. This is a fact. And so you got to understand that if we're going to be free, we can't be mixing. See, imagine this. So you have your little mixed kid with your white girl, and your little mixed kid ends up looking white. So when you're on your deathbed, here comes your little white mixed kid. She looked like a white girl. And she's gonna say, "Hey, grandpa." And you're gonna be like, "Who's that?" Right? You half in and out, right? Because she don't look like you. And so she look like your enemy. So now you got the little white looking kid who's mixed, who look white. And guess what? Does she have a need or a desire to fight for the freedom and deliverance of black folks? She's not affected by it because she can pass for white, right? She's never gonna, she may not oppose you, but she's not gonna care for your freedom and your deliverance and right to self-determination and reparations because she look white. You see, the confusion that mixing causes, it dilutes our power. And I believe it's by design. So like, for instance, we have this article here. It says, racism against black people increasing in the US. Western countries research shows. While about 8 out of 10 African Americans exposed to racism, 77% of black people in Germany face discrimination based on their race, according to various research studies. So your little mixed baby who look white, you think she gonna care or he gonna care about the oppression of black folks, racism of black folks? See, but there's a change coming, because now that we know who we are, we know we the Israelites of the Bible, we know that the Bible told us don't mix with them folks, right? The Bible told us we are a unique, separate people called out to be separate from the nations and different from the nations. But y'all want to act like that don't exist no more. So it said, despite efforts to prevent discrimination in the US, UK, EU countries, institutional and individual racism continues to rise. But guess what? You ain't getting out of this unless you get yourself out of it. What did our people do? God could have destroyed all the other nations by himself. All he had to do was speak a word, right? But guess what? Our ancestors had to go into each one of them nations and handle business. While rapid changes in the economic and social spheres in recent years have triggered discrimination against foreigners, people from different ethnic groups say they face discrimination in countries despite being citizens. Since 1966, March 21st has been designated as the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination in memory of the 69 people killed by police during a protest against apartheid laws in South Africa on March 21st, 1960. While the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1965, has been signed by 88 countries so far, the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination under the UN is working to fulfill the obligations of the convention. The discriminatory attitudes towards black and non-white ethnic groups, especially since the colonial period in Western countries, continue to exist in all layers of society today. Although most legal barriers have been removed, black people are among the groups that experience the most discrimination in the US, UK, and EU countries. Do you think you're going to be able to pass laws to get rid of discrimination? Do you think unless you are the ones making the laws and controlling your own armies and controlling your own destiny and economic future, you ever going to get rid of racism? No, they're not going to change. They can't change. Well, you know, well, I'm a Christian and I've changed. I don't hate nobody. It don't matter. You are part of a racist, white supremacist system. And that system is what you grow up in, and that's all you know. In the US, which has frequently made headlines around the world due to racist attacks in recent years, black people complain the most about institutional racism against them. According to the Pew Research Center data, approximately 8 out of 10 African Americans say they have experienced personal discrimination because of their race or ethnicity, citing an increase in white supremacist hate groups. Look, I believe it's 10 out of 10, them raccoons lying, all right? Meanwhile, 7 out of 10 African Americans believe that discrimination prevents black people from advancing in their careers. Obviously, black Americans advocate for reform to U.S. institutions. It's never going to happen, not by legal judicial means. and the judicial system, arguing that institutional discrimination persists. Asians are another major group that frequently faces discrimination in the U.S. While 58% of Asian adults say they have experienced racial discrimination or unfair treatment due to their race or ethnicity, 53% say they have sometimes encountered racial discrimination. Black people face most discrimination in France, Germany, Austria. According to a recent survey conducted by the EU with more than 6,700 people of African descent in 13 member states, the most discrimination against Black people occurs in Germany and Austria. In Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, Poland, Portugal, Spain, and Sweden. 47% of people of African descent reported being discriminated against at least once over the past 5 years. Just one? Well, they're a little better than the U.S., huh? In Germany, 77% of participants reported experiencing discrimination in the last 5 years, while 76% of Austrian participants reported encountering discrimination at least once in the last 5 years. According to a study conducted by the Representative Council of Black Associations, 91% of Black people in France report experiencing racial discrimination on a regular or irregular basis, with 85% citing discrimination based on skin color. Black people in France say discrimination occurs 41% of the time in public places and 31% of the time at work. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Forget it. Ain't no discrimination. Gaslighting, right? Most hate crimes in the UK racially motivated, according to a joint study conducted by 3 UK universities last year. 1 in every 3 people from various ethnic and religious minority groups has experienced at least one type of racist attack in their lives. Between 40 and 50% of Black people in the UK face racism daily, whether they are shopping in parks or using public transportation. According to British government data, 155,841 hate crimes were reported between March 2021 and March 2022, with the majority being racially motivated, accounting for more than 2/3, approximately 70% of hate crimes, totaling 109,843. But you Black folks, y'all always saying race, 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 race. Slavery, slavery. But understand this. What we're seeing today with Gen Z is a revolution, is liberté, is a change. And I believe the Most High is behind it. Now, understand the second Exodus is on the horizon, in my opinion. But there are certain things that must happen before we go back to the promised land. And one of those things, right? Because the Bible says when we in the land, we're going to have peace, right? And our enemy's not going to attack us anymore. So guess what? Certain things got to happen first. And I believe it's about to take place because we different. Oh, we different now. That weak, limp-wristed version of this of Christianity, we don't follow that no more. That colonized slave Bible version of Christianity, we don't follow that no more. We follow the exact word of the scriptures, not the slave master's interpretation of it. So what's coming is Micah 5:8. And y'all heard me read this many times before. Micah 5:8. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion amongst the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who if he go through, both tread it down and tear it in pieces, and none can deliver. None can deliver. See, this is what's going to happen. This is what I believe, this is my opinion, this is the time we are in, because if the second Exodus is near, as I believe it is, and when we go back to the land, we no longer among the Gentiles, but we are among the Gentiles right now, then guess what? This prophecy has to be near, super near. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles. Where are we? Scattered amongst the nations, what? As slaves, right? The remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who if he go through, both tread it down and tear it in pieces, and none can deliver. You are not going to be set free until you set yourself free with the power of the Most High. Don't get it twisted. I know y'all don't want to hear this because y'all used to the Eurocentric, limp-wristed, weak version of the scriptures, where we saw in the Bible our ancestors went and took the land. Our ancestors fought their enemies. But now all of a sudden the Most High say you don't have to fight your enemies no more. You don't have to fight the wicked anymore, right? Now things are different. No, it's not. And if we're about to go home, then guess what? This got to be near, even at the door. Israel going to be waking up. And guess what? A lot of stuff about to happen. I'm telling you, this is the time of change. This is why you're seeing things happen on the continent. This is why you're seeing the Gen Z rise up, right? It's the Most High. He's waking his people up, and it's going to be global. It's going to be global, and it's going to happen here too in the States. Don't get it twisted. It's going to happen here in the States. 2 Baruch 72. Now here also about the bright waters, which come at the end after the black ones. This is the word. Now, the black waters is all of the harsh treatments and the trials and tribulations that the Israelites went through. And the bright waters are the blessings, the good times, right? Verse 2, after the signs have come of which I have spoken to you before, when the nations, the Gentiles are moved, and the time of my anointed one, that's Yeshua, comes, he will call all the nations, and some of them he will spare, and others he will kill. So when Yeshua comes, some he's going to spare, and some he's going to kill. Why is he going to kill them? These things will befall the nations which will be spared by him. Every nation which has not known Israel, in other words, you ain't mess with us. Every nation which has not known Israel and which has not trodden down the seed of Jacob will live. In other words, you didn't enslave us. You didn't pew us in the street. You didn't discriminate against us. Every nation which has not messed with us, you gonna live. And this is because some from all the nations have been subjected to your people. So some from all the nations are going to be subject to who? Us. See, things are going to be changing. All those now who have ruled over you, our slave masters, or have known you, will be delivered up to the sword. All those nations, all the ones I've mentioned and read with racial discrimination, Germany, France, Austria, Portugal, Spain, Belgium, all these nations, right? America, UK, France, all those now who have ruled over you or have known you will be delivered up to the sword. Touch not my anointed, do my prophets no harm. Touch not the apple of my eye. Y'all thought he was joking, didn't you? And guess what? Israel gonna be part of this deliverance. I'm telling you. So now we got end time scenarios, and like I said, I think we are near at the door. We're gonna find out. Like I said, I'm not a prophet. I'm just a teacher, and I'm just telling you what I see. I don't think we have long. But guess what? These nations are in trouble. Isaiah 14:1-8. Yahuwah will have compassion on Jacob. Once again, he will choose Israel and will settle them in their own land. So we get to go home, right? Second Exodus. Foreigners will join them and unite with the descendants of Jacob. So we're going to have some of these foreigners with us going back. Nations will take them and bring them to their own place. So the nation's going to bring us back. But I believe it's going to happen after a whole bunch of people got, you know what I'm saying? And Israel will take possession of the nations and make them male and female servants. The Bible says slaves, however you want to say it. Male and female servants in Yahuwah's land. So the ones who come back with us are going to be slaves in the land. They will make captives of their captors. So that's you all who come back with us, who are in this land, who are our enemies, who decide who want to come back with us. They will make captors of their captors and rule over their oppressors. I'm like, okay, well, y'all coming back with us, some of y'all who identify and realize that we the people, but yet the Bible still refers to you all as our oppressors, but yet you get to come back with us, right? See, people don't want to tell you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. You ain't got to like it. I told you, people don't always like the truth. You can't say I'm lying. On the day Yahuwah gives you relief from your sufferings and turmoil, from the harsh labor, can we say bondage, forced on you, you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. So we're talking about Babylon. We're going to be leaving Babylon. Some of y'all coming back with us, back to the land, but you're going to be our servant. Who leaving Babylon? How the oppressor has come to an end. How his fury has ended. Yahuwah has broken the rod of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers, which in anger struck down peoples in unceasing blows, and in fury subdued nations. Who's that? With relentless aggression. Who's that? The Vatican? All the lands are at rest and at peace. They break into singing. Why? Because Babylon has fallen, Even the junipers and the cedars of Lebanon gloat over you and say, now that you have been laid low, now that Babylon has been laid low, no one comes to cut us down. Once Babylon is destroyed, you living in her right now. You living in her right now. Where a president just stopped and decided he's not running for office. Now that you have been laid low, no one come to cut us down. Who's the wicked on this earth? Who's the hammer of the whole earth? Who's causing trouble around the world? Who's putting sanctions on everybody? See, things, they be a-changing. And they changing real quick, real fast. Any comments, minutes to tell you before I continue?
Well, I'll add that now that you're awakening and our people globally are awakening, and you're seeing some of our people on the continent reacting against these false authorities, be prepared even in America to lose the privileges that you have, right? Some of the privileges you've gotten accustomed to, if they can't pull the wool over your eyes anymore, then they're going to pull back on your privileges. It's going to be something different for us. It's going to be new. You're going to have less privileges.
Yeah, and things are going to come to a crescendo. I got a video on that. And there's going to be conflict. Let's put it that way. See, some of y'all didn't think we're going to have to go through. We're going to have to fight. I'm not telling you to fight. I'm just saying from what I see in the scriptures, right? I'm not telling you to do anything, right? I'm just saying from a scriptural viewpoint, as we read Micah 5:8, things, they are changing. And things are changing to the extent that people don't realize that their privileges are being taken away, right? White supremacy is losing its supremacy and they're losing their privileged status, and they can see it. And the smart ones have left. But guess what? Trump and his supporters built that wall to keep people out. They built that wall to keep people out. But let's look at what's happening though, because it's funny how things flip. I told y'all one day that wall gonna be used to keep them in.
Illegal aliens that have been arrested and released. There are 30 million by the time Joe Biden has finished his term, and before he came in, there was 22 million. There are over 50 million illegal aliens in the United States of America. 60 to 70% of them are single adult military-age men from every.
This thing not showing. There we go. All right, let me continue. It finally came up.
Every nation that hates us. And it's happening to you. It's happening to your community. Let me give you one example that just happened, that just came on the radar today. As you and we talk about this, we go to New York, go to Chicago, we go to these major places. And of course, that's the metropolitan. We're going to jam all the illegal aliens we can in those cities. And everyone goes, thank God I don't live there. Right. Thank God I live in Ohio. Okay, Ohio, let's talk about you. Springfield, Ohio, 58,000 residents. They have over 20,000 Haitians in their city right now. That means they have 40% of their population are illegal alien Haitians. They say they can't handle it. Really? I'm shocked that you're just using those terms.
Right.
Crime skyrocketed. Homelessness everywhere. Schools, hospitals, everything's decay. America, as I predicted, and people say you're crazy, it'll never happen. Where do you think 50 million people are going to just be in the metropolitan areas? Or are they going to end up in middle America, in small town, rural America? They're all over. There's videos of people in Georgia, small rural towns with a church, a stoplight, and a gas station, driving by and filming. What in God's name's going on? There are military-age men, they're showing them, from Africa, roaming my streets. What happened?
It's the ninjas. It's the ninjas. What happened? I ain't saying nothing about the Mexicans, but guess what? Let's listen.
And these were black men filming. It wasn't a racist white guy going, oh, these Africans. This is a black resident of Georgia going, what in God's name is, where did they come from? This is what is happening in America. And that's what I'm hoping. Ryan and I have blood, sweat, and tears into this. We are hoping that this documentary, which I believe will be powerful.
Yeah.
It will not be. It's going to be, it's not me talking for an hour and a half and then maybe some graphics. I know, because I've already seen what Ryan Matta has already done with his editing team. When he's done and you're done watching it for 90 minutes, Clayton, I believe you are going to feel as if you forgot to exhale.
Like I've done for the last hour and a half.
So they're concerned about the increase in immigration, and that's why they built the wall, right? Remember, Trump, build that wall, build that wall. Trump like, I'm going to build that wall. Build a little piece here, build a little piece there. And the right-wing Christians say, keep them people out. They're dangerous. They're coming here with their doctrines and with their diseases, right? And so now, guess what? Things, they be a-changing, right? These people, they're hypocrites, right? They're hypocrites. Build that wall. Keep them out of America. Don't let them in. But guess what? Now they being sent back.
Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com. Mexico's deporting Americans back to the United States. Can't make this up. According to this tweet, anyway, undocumented Americans moving to Mexico for a lower cost of living is now causing inflation in Mexico.
Mexico is now deporting Americans back to the U.S. because they're fed up. So recently, people in Mexico have been complaining because there's been an increased amount of Americans moving to Mexico without documentation. This has been causing inflation in Mexico since Americans usually don't pay any tax, and they pay in U.S. dollars, so prices have been going up. Just in the past 60 days, there's been over 240,000 immigrant apprehensions, and over 7,000 of them have been deported so far. The reason people are fleeing from the U.S. to Mexico is because they can't afford to live in America anymore, and in Mexico, the US dollar has a lot more value and can go a longer way. However, because of this, people in Mexico are also feeling like Americans have been colonizing in a lot of parts of Mexico. And for locals, it's been a struggle since businesses have been naturally raising prices in response to this. People in Mexico are saying this is decreasing the quality of life over there, and everyone using pesos now having to pay more to buy anything.
I'll say this. Funny if it's true. Super ironic. Oh, you know how we love irony. That would be super ironic. From Fox 5 KUSI News, 261 Americans deported from Mexico through Baja California in 2023. That's the headline there. That's by Salvador Rivera. That's from February 9th. So apparently it is happening. Look at that. Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas.
Things, they be a-changing. Any comments, Minister Tate?
No.
All right, so this is my last video, and so this is
well, don't forget the Malcolm X. I gave you that.
Oh, you sent that? Okay, yeah. Let me do that first before I show this one. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Malcolm X was the man. I ain't gonna lie.
I think you'll find, sir, that there will come a time when black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves. Then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself.
So true. Nobody else is going to bring an end to this. We're going to have to bring an end to it by ourselves, by the power of the Most High. As I mentioned before, as our ancestors went into those other nations and handled business, you're not getting the chains off your neck unless you take the chains off your neck yourself. These people are not going to wake up tomorrow and say, oh, here's your land back. Oh, here's your gold back. Oh, here's your reparations. Oh, here's your freedom. Oh, we're going to now allow you to become presidents and congressmen and governors, and we're going to allow you to own land. No, it's not going to happen that way. You're going to have to handle it yourself. This is a fact. But the bottom line is, what are we truly dealing with here? What are we dealing with? And look, Gentiles are waking up as well because they're being affected now. But if you watch, you can tell that the curses are flipping. They are flipping. I don't care what nobody say. The curses are flipping. And so you got to understand that people are starting to wake up worldwide. And guess what? Just as we have to shake off tyranny, the Gentiles are going to try to shake off tyranny as well, which is why they want us to help them. Oh, we need to unite now. We need to unite now. No, we're not uniting because you didn't care when they were doing stuff to us. You got to handle business yourself. We're going to handle business ourselves. Now, the raccoons that don't want to join in with the rest of us, that's their business, right? Let them do them, right? Because all Israel ain't Israel. All black folks ain't on the same team. Some black folks are on slave masters' team. That's just the way it is. You can't tell them no different, right? But the Gentiles are waking up and they understand what's happening and who's behind this now. But, you know, they didn't really care so long as they benefited from the system.
The final goal.
Let me refresh this thing.
The final goal is to eradicate humanity as we know it. Once you understand the final destination, it becomes much easier to look back and identify the psychological conditioning, the biological tampering, the cultural grooming, and the educational prepping that we have been subjected to for decades in preparation to making us accept a post-human future. It takes a lot of physical and psychological abuse to get an intelligent species like ours to agree to its own extinction. If not all that has transcended in the last 60 years was designed to get us closer to accepting such a dystopian reality. Whether you care to accept it or not, we live in a hyper-controlled matrix where our perception of reality is meticulously planned, managed, and executed in order to control and steer us in whichever direction they wish. And the direction is a post-human world. For this, they first needed to destabilize, dehumanize, and demoralize humanity through every means possible. The destruction of the nuclear family, children being indoctrinated by the state, abortion, the eradication of God and spirituality from education, life in megacities and away from nature, toxic food, air, and water, social media, replacing real human connection and interaction, engineered financial crisis and taxation, Endless wars and massive migration, stress, anxiety, depression, drugs and alcohol, constant fear-mongering, moral relativism as the new religion. And I could go on and on about how humanity has been influenced and forced to move away from all the things that give us strength, security, purpose, and meaning. A weak, immoral, disconnected, ignorant, and unhealthy population is an easy target for the next stage, the creation of an entire generation of androgynous beings. Masculinity is under attack psychologically, culturally, and biologically. Women are being replaced in sports, entertainment, and politics by men pretending to be women, and children are being indoctrinated at school to think that gender is a choice. The transgender movement is not a grassroots movement. It comes from the top. It has nothing to do with people's freedom of expression, sexuality, or civil rights. It's an evil psyop with a clear agenda to get us closer to transhumanism by making us question the most fundamental notion of human identity.
So one thing I want to note is that if you notice, a lot of that started with the black community. They test these PSYOP programs on us first. They destroy our homes first, the nuclear family, right? And then they feminize our homes first, right? Which is why you see so many black males with their pants hanging down and all kind of stuff when they feminize. And it's been a targeted effort, and it's because we don't rule ourselves, right? We don't have any leadership. We have no representation in Congress. We have no representation in the power structure at all. They do whatever they want. And now they're passing laws and programs to make sure that we don't even have any income, right? We won't have any wealth to leave our families. We won't own any houses and land because you won't even be able to afford the taxes on the property. Why? Because you're not going to have a job, right? So we're at the threshold of change, right? It's sort of like when you have the two guys, you know, like in the old Western movies, and they're about to draw down on each other, right? And it's like, well, somebody got to go. We both can't stay, right? We both can't survive, right? One of us gonna be gone. That's where we're at today, right? We all can't survive on this island together, obviously, right? Because somebody don't want you there. They don't care about your needs, and they're removing any benefits that you did have and any representation that you did have. Those are gone. And you got people that look like you that betray you. And then you got people that look like you that marry into their families, right? Which dilutes your purpose and your goals and your desires and your wants and needs. Because what they want and what they need will never be the same as what you want and what your people need. This is the reality of the situation, and it's life and death. And this is why what we see happening in Kenya, what we see about to happen in Nigeria, we see what happened in the Sahel states. Our people are waking up and separating, right? Our people are starting to unify. Our people are starting to realize we truly do need one another. Our people are starting to realize that these people got us in their scopes, right? And they've gaslighted us for 400 years. It's our fault that we in the situation we are. It's our fault that our homes are broken. It's our fault that our women are now, a lot of them, not all of them, are 304s. It's our fault that our boys are walking around with their pants hanging down around their ankles. It's our fault that now they're feminized, right? It's all our fault. Just like that woman who's a German woman saying that it's our women's fault because, you know, they can't compete with her because she's more feminized. Well, guess what? Y'all destroyed the black family. No wonder some of the black women are hard and rough and don't know what it means to be a wife, right? And some of them don't know what it means to be feminine, what it means to be a righteous woman, right? They had no daddy in the house. And the mama was confused as well. Whose fault is it but the ones who put the guns in there that we have crime in our neighborhoods? Whose fault is it that we have drugs in our neighborhoods? Who put the drugs in the neighborhoods? Whose fault is it that they put gangster rap on our media and television and gear it towards our people, but it's our fault. But you the ones that control the spigot that allows all this stuff to spew out. It ain't our fault. It's your fault. It's their fault. But it didn't matter till it start crossing over, right? And look, and the reason why I'm talking like this is because now it's the time of decision. This is my opinion. It's the time of decision. It's the time of whether or not we're going to survive or not. We are at the end game, in my opinion. We either going to come out this thing shining and bright, and if it wasn't for the scriptures, I think we were done. But I know what the scripture says. We're going to rise, right? This is the dry bones coming to life. And Israel ain't taking it no more. Israel said, enough of me living in my own land, and I can't drink my own water, I can't eat my own food, and I can't get my own gold. Israel like, enough of this. When the Gentiles come in, I got to use their money in my own country. Somebody make it make sense. It's us or them, right? That's how our people feel. I'm telling you, that's how our people feel. The youth waking up, but the youth got to make sure they seek the Most High. The youth got to make sure that as they move forward, they seeking Yah first. We not winning without our king. We not winning without our God going before us. We not winning unless we submit and repent for our sins and the sins of our ancestors. This is life and death. And look, you got the people that look like us that's going to gaslight us and tell us we're fear-mongering. No, our lives are at stake as a people. And you can't sense that? You don't know that? Our lives are at stake. I don't care what nobody says. Well, you know, I still have a good job. For now, by 2030, you're going to be on universal basic income, Joker. Don't get it twisted. By 2030, even if you got money and land saved up, you ain't going to be able to take care of it because you ain't going to have no income. You ain't going to have no job. And the money that you do have in the bank going to be devalued unless you can put it somewhere where you can maintain its value. And guess what? Not here in the States. They passing laws, changing laws. You ain't going to own nothing and you going to be happy. You going to be poor and you going to be happy. That's what WEF says. See, this is the time of change. This is the time for Gen Z to stand together. And I'm not saying just based upon their generation. I'm saying everybody who identifies with what Kenyans are doing. Everyone who identifies with the revolution, like in France, right? This is the time. If you can't see it, I feel sorry for you. Minister, tell you any final comment?
Yeah, so what I see is you're going to be saving money to get out of here, right? Just like our people in Africa want to save money to get over here, we're going to be wanting to get over there. We're going to be wanting to go to Africa. We're going to be trying to figure out how in the world can I get over there? Why is that? Remember that we mentioned before Demolition Man, right? Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, right? That's the world where universal basic income is implemented. And yeah, you have police officers, but those jobs are prime. They're going to be prime positions. All them jobs you have today, a lot of them going to go away, but there's going to be a few prime positions for the elite. And everybody else going to be like the ones in Demolition Man, living underground, struggling in poverty, thinking that this is something like living in the poverty areas of Africa, right? That's the future of universal basic income, right? You're not going to want to be here in a concrete jungle, right? So, you know, I pray the Most High move quick. I pray that he said he's going to bring us all home and get us out of here. So that's the hope, right? I mean, the Messiah has given us the opportunity to be saved through his sacrifice, but Israel's still waiting for redemption and salvation from the hands of their captors, right? And I pray that happens soon.
And here's the thing, and I don't know what I did with the video, but what's coming here is similar to what happened in Bangladesh, which is why they're rebelling right now and protesting and dying. And basically 50% of the, because most of the jobs there are government related. 50% of the jobs for the Bangladeshi people are set aside for insiders, right? So 50%, you got to be part of these groups, the elite power structure or organizations. 50% is set aside. Well, I think it's 53% or whatever, right? It's set aside, and you can't get it, right? No meritocracy. No meritocracy. The only part of the government that allows for meritocracy is 47%, right? So if you in the elite categories, right, you already set aside, right? You don't have much competition because you're part of the elite class. That's what's coming to America. But the 47% that's left over for the rest, for meritocracy and your hard work and you rising up the ranks, that all of them millions of people got to fight for that 47%. Whereas the elite, they already have their set aside. They don't have to fight for nothing, right? That's what's coming to America. It's really already here, but you can see the things changing. It's not the same. Is that the one, Minister, tell you what you sent me?
I'm not sure which one you had. I just found one if you were interested.
Okay, let me see if that's it. All right, let's look at that right quick. So this coming to a state near you here in the U.S. and understand that it's not going to be nice. And you saw what happened when the internet shut down for a lot of businesses, and a lot of people weren't ready for it. And what you don't understand is that it's coming here as well. So I think that's it, Minister Tayu. The other video is not going to add to what I wanted to say. That anything else?
No. Yeah. Just keep us in prayer and prepare yourself.
Yeah, so I would say prepare, family. Look, you all don't know what may happen this week. Hopefully nothing happens, but based upon what happened with the shutdown, with the banks and the internet and the gas stations and stuff, I mean, we don't know if anything will continue into this week and maybe escalate, right? It's a possibility. We don't know. That's why you got to be prepared. You got to always have a little cash on hand, a little extra water and food for emergency sake, right? In case you got to up and leave. But as you notice, a lot of the Gentiles, some of them were trying to go to Mexico and now they're being sent back. That wall that they built is going to keep them in. I say that. That's how things work, right? What you sow is what you reap. You built that wall to keep them people out. Now that wall was really built to keep you in.
But look, imagine, I mean, Minister Jacobin mentioned this before about this crescendo. There's a series of events that keep happening, right? From the attempted assassination of the president to the global technological outage to, I mean, we're going to see something else in a couple of weeks or days or weeks. I wouldn't be surprised, right? I mean, we already have Biden decide he was told not to run anymore, right? So he's not running for re-election. So that's adding to this crescendo where everything looks crazy right now, right? And so there's a lot of things in place. We don't know which one is going to drop and set it off, right? But there's a whole bunch of things in place that just you could tell is unstable, right? And it just takes one of those unstable things to drop and hit the floor and just boom, set it off. And that's what it looks like. We don't know everything that's going to be triggered, but we're in the you can feel it, right? Something else is coming. We're not at the crescendo yet, but we're getting there.
So, fam, that's all we got. And you know, some people like it, some people don't. And you know, but we're a truth ministry. We gotta speak and teach the truth regardless of people's feelings. And you know, for those who want to support this ministry, they can by becoming a patron by patreon.com/TOTW or Cash App $TEOTW 7101. That's $TEOTW 7101. And also don't forget to go to giftgivingforall.com. And you know, some of you all that support this ministry, we thank y'all for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. All of the patrons, all the Cash App givers. And then some of you all have never supported this ministry, but you listen. This may be the last time to support this ministry if you want to, because if you saw what happened this last week with things shutting down, I think that was a test run. I think everything's about to shut down. I think the internet's about to shut down. I think banks and gas stations and everything is about to shut down. I think that was a test run. Hopefully I'm wrong, but
So, Minister Cobra,
yeah.
Someone had asked, what's a plan? What kind of plan you have to help us prepare for this? Now, what's your comment on that?
Well, here's my plan, right? I could tell you my plan, because even though it would be good to move as a unit and as a people, the hard part is that there's always infiltrators, right? So when the infiltrators get involved, that causes confusion and dilutes us working together. So we sort of have to help each other, you know, what's the word, in a distributed manner, right? So first, like the Bible says, you got to take care of your immediate house first. And then, you know, you help people moving outward, right? So, you know, you support us, we help other people. You support Question United Africa, they help other people. We got to do it that way, because top down, there's always infiltrators, right? And they will cause confusion and disrupt the whole relationship. So any comments, Minister T?
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, you have to rely on the Most High, and you know, if the Most High is telling some of y'all to go, then go. But I mean, you have to listen to Him, because nobody's telling you to do it. But you know, some of our people, they've been called to go, and I envy them. I envy them because I can't go, and many of us can't go. So we have to just trust that the Most High is going to get us back home at the appointed time. Now, how do you know, we're going to have to ride through the storm. We're going to have to ride through the storm to get out the storm, right? And I think that's just, you know, the minimum basic things you should always do is have extra food and extra water, because when those grocery stores are shut down or the delivery trucks stop delivering, what are you going to do, right? So it doesn't hurt to have extra water and food, at least to get you through a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And, you know, like I mentioned to y'all before, right before I came down here to New Orleans, I was preparing to get my passport. You know, I had all my paperwork. We were literally going, you know, that Monday we were going to go, but had to come down here for a funeral. So that got delayed. But that's the other thing you can do is get your passport, you know, be ready to leave if you got to leave. If you don't understand that, you know, the services that you're used to, right? And you know, you should have seen that last week, especially if you know, the companies that got shut down and some of your personal computers got shut down, how much danger this economy is in, because we're so technologically integrated, and that, you know, one central point could take down everybody, right? You have to be prepared to survive in that type of situation. And so, my philosophy is basically to, sort of have a distributed mindset, right? And if you can get an international bank account, well, I haven't gotten one yet, but if you can get an international bank account, get one. And also, if you can, have some gold and silver on hand. I mean, most of us can't afford all that stuff because we live paycheck to paycheck, day to day, right? But do what you can, right? And keep a little cash on hand for it, just like if you do. See, the benefit we got is that we grew up in New Orleans and we ran away from hurricanes almost every year, or almost every other year. So it's like, you got to be ready, right? You got to have your bags packed. You got to have, some money on the side for if you got to leave and go stay in a hotel, or to, rent a car and get out of town, right? It's all about being prepared, right? As much as you can. That's my philosophy. I mean, yeah, we're not going to be able to be prepared like the rich folks, right? Like the elite, right? But we could do what we can within our own power, right? Like I always say, a little something is better than nothing, right?
So too, I like to add, and I learned this the hard way when hurricane came and knocked out all the power, and I didn't know what was going on. My phone wasn't working, things like that. TV wasn't working. Have a shortwave radio, right? That you can get news, because maybe your local station is not going to be broadcasting. So have some batteries for that shortwave radio, or a crank shortwave radio. Everyone should have one just in case.
Yeah, I got one of those little crank radios. If you run out of batteries, you can crank it up and you can hear some of the news on the radio. You definitely want that.
At least you won't be blind, right?
Yeah, and you can make decisions.
Yeah.
But if you see danger coming, right, and you're able to, you need to have a plan to get out. Now, my whole thing is I just trust in the Most High, because you can't control every situation, right? But I do believe you should be somewhat prepared, because I believe that those people who aren't prepared are going to suffer for their lack of preparedness, right? So you got to be somewhat prepared and be ready to survive at least a short time to make your way out. And I believe that the Most High going to provide. As my brother will tell you, during Katrina, the Most High provided for him big time, and so it's like I was already in Dallas, so they all came. I had my whole family staying with me in the apartment during the Katrina time, right? But all of my family was taken care of by the Most High. So you definitely got to trust in the Most High, but you also got to do what you can, because even during that transitional period to get where you need to be, it may be at the end where your destination is where the preparation is, right? But during the transition, you needed a little cash to get there, right? Stuff like that. So that's all I could tell you to do, because I'm going to tell you now, don't trust a central authority. And I don't care how much they say they're Israelites and they love you and they're going to buy some land for you and build a community. No, most people got egos. Most people want to rule over other people, and most people take advantage of other people. And, you got, look, trust is built. It is earned, right? You don't just blindly trust people. It is earned. And you got to look at the fruit. And if you see their fruit has been good and they got a good heart and they've been treating people right, then, okay, fine. Right. But other than that, don't listen to the good words. Right. Let people prove themselves first. All right. Minister, tell you that anything else?
Peace and blessing, Israel. Your captivity is ending.
All right, fam. So we love y'all. Be ready for anything. I do believe we're in those times. I believe something major is on the horizon. This is a time of change. And, you don't know what's going to happen, but you best be right with the Most High. And share this video, give it a like if you haven't. And, just be ready, because at this point in time, right before the elections, the closer we get to the elections, in my opinion, be concerned. So peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of the Messiah.